Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive, the podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if the ultimate spiritual awakening wasn't about finding new answers?
But about finally detonating every single answer you've ever been given. If you're here to question, to dig deeper, you're in the right place. Today, we're taking on something pretty significant. Our source material, the Deconstructionists, calls this the sovereign self-deception. We're going to be looking at ideas coming out of William Buhlman's work, especially his stuff on out-of-body experiences, OBEs, from places like the Monroe Institute. But look, our mission today isn't just to, describe it. We're here with the crowbar.
Right.
We want to pry this thing open, expose the vulnerabilities, see what's really ticking underneath. Why does it grab people? And, well, what are the limits?
Exactly. And it's crucial to understand this goes way beyond just like how to have an OBE. We're talking about a whole worldview here, a really complete ideological framework. Our source breaks it down into 12 core conceptual ideas.
12 of them.
Okay. Yeah, and these ideas, they shape everything. How you see reality, who you think you are, even what you believe happens, after you die. We're going to use what the source calls a priority concept queue to sort of unpack them systematically. Start with the big foundational ones first.
Makes sense. Get the pillars identified before looking at the roof.
Pretty much. We'll help you get informed fast without drowning in the details.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our source, it really zeroes in immediately on some foundational stuff. It calls it the foundational idea. This is core idea 4. All man-made belief systems are flawed limiting boxes.
Right.
So the argument is, doesn't matter what it is, Lutheranism, quantum physics, New Age stuff, they're all flawed. They're all just boxes limiting your consciousness.
And what's fascinating right off the bat is the vulnerability detected. The source immediately flags this as a self-refuting statement.
How so?
Well, think about it. The claim itself, all man-made belief systems are flawed. That claim is a man-made belief system, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
So by its own rules, it has to be flawed too. It's this really clever rhetorical shield. It's like putting up a force field to say, you can't argue with me because all arguments come from flawed systems.
Yeah.
Except implicitly mine. It tries to put itself above the very critique it levels at everything else.
That is clever, sneaky almost, like saying nothing is true, but expecting us to believe that statement is true. So if you buy into that first step, you're already sort of God in a specific kind of box that claims it's not a box.
Precisely. You're disarmed from the start, intellectually speaking.
Okay, so from that foundation, we get to what the source calls the central premise. And this is where it gets really interesting regarding, us, our own power, our own reality. Core idea 5, the self is the sole creator of reality. This idea suggests that your individual consciousness, just yours, creates absolutely everything you experience, all of it, including the afterlife. It's all down to your beliefs, your expectations.
Yeah, and connecting that to the bigger picture, our source tags this pretty strongly as a victim-blaming framework.
Victim blaming, wow, explain that.
Well, if you are the sole creator of your reality, then logically, any suffering, any hardship, any oppression you experience, it must be your own creation.
Right.
It kind of glosses over or even ignores obvious things like systemic issues, economic forces, physical limitations, stuff that demonstrably affects people from the outside. The source argues this is ethically, devastating. It can basically dismiss real-world suffering by saying you must have created it.
So hang on. If someone's poor or sick or facing discrimination, this framework suggests they somehow manifested that themselves. What does that do to things like empathy or like social justice?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It potentially undermines both. If everyone's just living in their own self-created bubble, where's the shared responsibility? Where's the need to change external systems? It kind of evaporates.
Which then leads directly to how you're supposed to find your way through all this, the primary concept, core idea 8. The path is inward, not external.
Ah, yes, the classic look within.
Right. It's a command, reject all external authorities. Teachers, books, the source even points out explicitly reject Buhlman's own books. Just go for pure, direct self-exploration.
But here's the immediate question that pops up. Why is someone telling you to only look inward? Our source flags this as a paradoxical command. The very act of giving the command contradicts the command itself.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
You've got an external authority figure telling you, commanding you, to reject all external authority. It's subtle, but it actually fosters a weird kind of dependency on that specific source. For the method of rejecting all other sources. You're following their external instruction to ignore external instructions. It completely undermines the premise, doesn't it? It creates this weird intellectual loop.
It's like a mental Mobius strip. You follow the instruction to be free of instructions, which means you're still following an instruction. It's a really interesting, maybe even insidious way to keep you locked into their specific way of thinking while making you feel like you're totally independent.
Absolutely. It uses the language of ultimate freedom to create a new kind of invisible fence.
Okay, and underpinning all of this, there's another really fundamental piece, often presented as just fact. Core idea one. Consciousness is the core substance.
The bedrock, supposedly.
Yeah, the idea that consciousness isn't something the brain produces, it's the fundamental stuff of reality itself, non-physical, and our bodies, just, temporary cars we're driving,
Right.
biological vehicles.
And this one gets flagged immediately as an unfalsifiable axiom. Basically, it's presenting this non-physical idealism as objective fact, but there's no evidence for it that you can actually test or verify in the physical world.
So you can't prove it wrong.
But you also can't prove it right using any empirical method. It stands completely opposed to philosophical materialism, the view that, matter is primary and consciousness arises from complex matter like brains. So you have these two fundamental clashing worldviews, and this one just asserts its truth without needing or offering physical proof. It's taken on faith.
Right, it's like the starting assumption you just have to accept to enter the system. And if consciousness is the only real thing, that naturally leads to core idea two. The physical world is an insignificant epidermis. Our bodies, the planet, everything material, just a thin skin, almost irrelevant.
Precisely. The source labels this an unsubstantiated comparative claim. It just declares the physical world insignificant, a superficial layer, a temporary illusion, without providing any solid, verifiable reason why we should see it that way compared to consciousness. This thinking devalues material reality, our actual lived experiences in our bodies, the environment we depend on. It can foster a kind of detachment, right? Not just from your body, but from the tangible world and its very real issues.
So if you're just trying to live your life, this worldview could easily lead you to think, oh, my job stress, my health problems, climate change, that's all just minor stuff happening on the epidermis. The real action is internal, non-physical. That's got huge practical implications for how you engage with the world, doesn't it?
Huge. It shifts the entire focus inward, potentially away from meaningful action or connection in the physical realm.
Okay, we've looked at some of the initial cracks, the vulnerabilities in these core ideas, but now it's time to bring out what our source calls the hammer.
Right. Time to really test the structure.
Yeah, this isn't just about finding logical flaws within the system. It's about comparing it to other systems, other ways of understanding reality, philosophical, cultural, to show that these claims aren't universal truths. They're specific, constructed ideas, and they often don't hold up when you widen the lens. So let's use the hammer first on that idea. All man-made belief systems are flawed. Core idea 4. The specific deception identified here is deception 1, the flawless Flaw-Finder. What's the trick here?
It's a classic logical fallacy of self-exemption. It's basically the oldest trick in the Guru Handbook, right? Everyone else is wrong, only I have the real truth. Or in this case, all maps are flawed, but I can guide you without a map. You see echoes of this in figures throughout history claiming unique insight. The danger for you, the listener, is that if you accept this premise, you're encouraged to reject all other sources of information, all critical thinking tools, leaving you reliant solely on the one person claiming that all tools are useless. It's intellectual disarmament, trapping you by making you suspicious of everything but the source of the suspicion itself.
Wow, yeah. It isolates you, creates an echo chamber where the only voice you trust is the one telling you not to trust other voices. Okay, what about the self? Is the sole creator of reality? Core idea 5, especially when that gets applied to the afterlife. The source calls this deception 2, the bootstrapped afterlife.
This really digs into the victim-blaming aspect we touched on. It's false causality with a spiritual gloss. The idea is your afterlife experience is entirely down to your personal beliefs and spiritual bank account from life. It's a parallel to the prosperity gospel. You see sometimes, if you're poor or sick, it's because you lack faith or positive thoughts.
Right.
Here it's applied after death. If you have a lousy afterlife, well, you didn't have the right beliefs, you didn't build enough spiritual capital. The source argues this is insidious because it effectively justifies inequality, even eternal inequality, and it numbs compassion. Why help someone who's struggling if it's just their resonance or their own creation? It absolves everyone of responsibility.
It puts an immense burden on the individual, suggesting that even in death, your experience is entirely your own fault, basically. Not a shared reality, not influenced by anything bigger. That's quite isolating.
Deeply isolating.
Yeah.
And it removes any sense of shared fate or collective journey.
Okay, let's tackle that command. Reject all external authority. Core idea 8. The deception here is labeled deception 4. The authoritative rejection of authority. It sounds so liberating. Be your own authority.
It sounds liberating, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's a logical paradox, a performative contradiction. The act contradicts the message. It's the standard playbook for almost every counterculture movement that, ironically, becomes its own kind of establishment. They sell rebellion against the man, against the system, but in doing so, they become the new system, the new authority you're subtly expected to follow.
Right.
It creates a psychological double bind for you. To truly obey the command, reject all authority, you'd eventually have to reject the person giving the command. But the framework implicitly forbids that. You're trapped. Follow the rule, but don't really follow it all the way. It's a cage disguised as an open door.
A very clever cage. You're encouraged to feel rebellious while actually conforming to a new, unstated set of rules. Okay, then there's the pressure cooker aspect. Let's bring in core idea 7, the evolutionary urgency of consciousness exploration. The deception linked to this is deception 3, the urgent infinite. Why the hurry if consciousness is infinite and eternal?
Yeah, this is just pure fear-based control, according to the source. It creates this completely artificial sense of scarcity and urgency within what's supposed to be an infinite existence. Hurry up, evolve now, explore your consciousness before it's too late.
Too late for what, exactly?
Exactly. It's never quite defined, but the feeling is there. It's strikingly similar, the source notes, to something like the Catholic doctrine of final judgment, just secularized. Instead of fearing hellfire for sin, you're made anxious about spiritual stagnation, about dying with low vibration or incorrect beliefs. It demands constant vigilance, constant striving, constant self-monitoring, which also happens to drive demand for workshops, books, and guru guidance. It turns this supposedly infinite journey into a stressful race against a phantom clock.
So it's not really about joyful exploration. It's about anxious striving, driven by a manufactured fear of missing out on infinity. That anxiety becomes a lever for control and, let's be honest, consumption.
Absolutely. Fear sells, even spiritual fear. It weaponizes the very idea of growth.
Okay, one more from this section. Let's look at core idea 11. Switching beliefs isn't real progress. You're just trading one box for another. The deception revealed here is deception 6. The box of no boxes. This sounds like the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card, intellectually.
It feels like it, doesn't it? This is identified as a false promise. It allows people inside this system to feel incredibly superior. Oh, I'm free. I'm beyond boxes, unlike all those other people trapped in their beliefs. But the paradox, the source argues, is that they are inside the most rigid box of all. The box that denies it's a box.
Like the ultimate conceptual trap.
Exactly. It's that there is no spoon idea, but inflated into this smug philosophy of pure negation. The problem is it gives you nothing solid to stand on, nothing to build with, only things to tear down. It creates this prison of constant deconstruction where the only freedom is freedom from everything, leaving you in a kind of enlightened void, perhaps, but still a void.
So the promise of total freedom actually prevents you from ever committing to or building upon any specific understanding or connection. It keeps you perpetually detached. And just to quickly circle back on a couple of others mentioned earlier, core idea 6, afterlife as self-conception, builds on that soul creator idea.
Right, flagged as unverifiable anecdote. It makes the afterlife purely subjective, a personal dream state you continue after death, removing any possibility of a shared reality or objective experience. Again, incredibly isolating, and places all the burden on your individual psychology.
Okay. So we've taken the crowbar, we've used the hammer, we've seen the internal contradictions and the external comparisons. After all this deconstruction, what is the ultimate deception here? What's the real core lie running through this sovereign self idea?
The source points to the ultimate deception as something quite profound. It's not just challenging the idea that we are only physical beings. No. The deeper, more insidious deception in the promotion of the idea that we are sovereign, solitary gods, that our entire reality, everything we perceive and experience, is solely and completely self-generated.
Why is that the ultimate deception? It sounds empowering.
Because it masquerades as ultimate empowerment. That's the trick. It dangles this carrot of total control, total freedom. But what it actually delivers, the source argues, is ultimate isolation. It systematically severs our connection to shared reality. It denies material cause and effect. It dissolves collective responsibility. It makes each person an island universe. At its heart, it's a theology of one, you alone creating and responsible for everything.
And this analysis, this whole deep dive, it's not just intellectual exercise. For you listening, this is meant as a call to cognitive Armageddon. It's a challenge to your own thinking, a potential detonation.
Yet look, this deep dive, what we've shared here, it's not supposed to be a new belief system for you to swap into. Please don't see it that way. Think of it as a crowbar. We're handing you the crowbar. Use it. Use it to pry open the lid on this self-sealing, solipsistic worldview, this conceptual coffin that promises godhood but delivers loneliness. Your consciousness, it's not some lonely god-king surveying its self-made kingdom. It's a participant. It's entangled in a vast, interdependent, messy, and yes, stubbornly material network of existence. So reject the tyranny of pretending you create everything. Embrace the liberation of connection, of limits, of shared reality, of the physical, tangible struggle and beauty of being interconnected. Burn down this mental prison they offer you. Because at the end of the day, your mind. That's the only territory they can truly conquer, and only if you hand it over. And the greatest trick the sovereign self-deception ever pulled was convincing you to gift wrap it and give it to yourself.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. What is the one small rebellious act you can do this week to reclaim a piece of your own cognition?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.
Thank you for joining us.